All right, time to move on to serious matters here. So I gave these guys a question of the day before we came on the air because I thought they'd need some time to think about it. Come to figure, I get my answer in 5 seconds from both of them. But it's NFC South related, and the question is as follows. Fellas, if you could invest in one NFC South team for the next 10 to 15 years, who would it be? Pookie, we'll start with you.
You know, I think that the NFC South is a challenging division, to say the least, to guess where these teams are going to be in the next 10 to 15 years, because you have the Falcons and the Saints, who may be at the end of an era with Matty Ice and Drew Brees. I know Matty Ice has a couple more years of good football, but Drew Brees could be close to retirement. So you're not really sure what those two teams are going to do when they start rebuilding. And the Panthers have already started rebuilding, so you also can't guess what Matt Rule is going to do down there in Carolina. But if I was picking a team, I'm going to go with Sean Payton. I think he's a great coach, and that he can probably succeed with somebody of a lesser caliber than Drew Brees, or with somebody of that caliber, depending on who they draft. So I'm going to trust in Sean Payton.
See, without getting to the specifics, Pookie mentioned, he's not sold on either Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston. In fact, he even went as far as to come up with a new moniker for Jameis Winston, which may or may not get put on a T-shirt soon. How does it go, Pookie?
Big Anus Jameis.
That's right. I, for one, believe it's absolutely going to be Jameis Winston next year, and I'm actually pretty excited to see how that goes with him having a year behind Drew Brees and getting to learn in the meeting room with Sean Payton. Drew Brees has that deal on the table. He's already signed it to join NBC, which, dude, I mean, come on, NBC just getting better with Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, and now I'm throwing Drew Brees in there too. Like, come on. But I think Jameis may do something with the Saints. I'm excited to see that at least. So I have more faith in big anus Jameis than Pookie does. But I don't know. But Drew, you went a different direction.
Yeah, when you're watching the video, you'll see the team. I'm repping the Panthers.
All right.
I chose the Panthers simply. Pookie said it. They're in rebuild mode right now. In today's NFL, I really don't think that, in the next 5 years, I think there's going to be a couple teams that are at the top that continue to stay at the top, and I'd rather be invested in a team that's going to be good if 5 years down the road for a longer period of time. And I think the earlier you start your rebuild, the more you want to invest in that team. And so that's why I want to invest in the Panthers. Having CMC as well, we don't know how long his career is going to last, but I believe, he's a dominant running back because he can do so many things. So having a guy like that on your team is so great. And so I think, I like the Panthers franchise. I like the owner. If you watch the All for Nothing on Amazon Prime, I think he's a great owner. And I think they're due for, good things to happen there in Carolina.
Pookie, you watch All or Nothing?
Never seen it.
Dude, I tried telling Drew. He used to talk to me about, dude, Hard Knocks is coming on in a few weeks, Hard Knocks. I'm like, dude, I'm done with Hard Knocks because there's a better show out there. All or Nothing.
Hold on.
I got Amazon Prime for that reason.
Better than Hard Knocks.
Yes!
Hard Knocks.
The best documentary TV series of the past 20 years. How the fuck are you going to go against Hard Knocks with All or Nothing?
Pookie, don't worry. I watched both, so I can say, like, on a regular basis, Hard Knocks is still better than All or Nothing, but All or Nothing is a very good documentary as well, simply because it does the whole season, not just the training camp. So I think it is both shows are great. If you can watch one, that's awesome, but I recommend watching both. They give you great details on both teams, or on both different types of seasons.
Hard Knocks is great. I just get, 6 episodes, though?
But there's 6 amazing, in-depth episodes that make you feel. Who knew about Darren Waller before Hard Knocks? Then he goes off and blows up. Hard Knocks is great.
Man, J.J. Watt during Hard Knocks, or Rex Ryan during Hard Knocks. The Jets had one of the best Hard Knocks seasons.
I did like the Jets Hard Knocks.
Vince Wilfork, Texans overalls. We wouldn't have gotten that without Hard Knocks. Sucker.
Well, I love the Panthers series on All or Nothing. So
yeah,
I got Amazon Prime for that reason, just to watch All or Nothing. They've struck out. They haven't had a team make it to the Super Bowl yet. I think the closest they got was the Cardinals. I think the first year they did it, That was the year the Cardinals made it to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
And got smoked. But I haven't seen a bad series yet. And I hate to say it, the Cowboys one was the best to me, but highly recommend it. But stop wasting time. Drew, going back to what you were saying about the Panthers real quick, we like acting smarter than we actually are when it comes to the NFL because, neither of us have held a GM position before or know anything about working contracts. But I would say that the Panthers are doing it right in the sense that, let's say if you get the number one pick, you've given Christian McCaffrey so much money already. And if I get the number one pick, I go get Trevor Lawrence. I get Trevor Lawrence on a team-friendly rookie deal. And so I don't have to worry about that money, all this money coming back into him. I can put it out to other guys. I've already got McCaffrey. I think it sets up well for the Panthers in the next few years, honestly.
Yeah.
And I love what Matt Rule did going all defense, bro. I mean, he's a defense guy, offensive line coach, offensive line guy, but he loves his defense. And I like the direction that team's going.
That's another reason why I kind of invested is if you look at Matt Rule's, I know he did it in college, not really obviously in the pros yet, but he's gone to 3 different schools, I believe, and rebuilt them from the ground up. It does take a couple of years, a whole new system, everything. But that's why another reason why I think this year for them, we'll go ahead and start talking about the Panthers here. For this year, they're not going to be great. Let's just be honest. I think they're going to be a tough out. They're going to be a competitive team. They have good weapons on offense, and like you said, they went all defense. And I think they'll have a decent team. I don't know how great they'll be, whatever. But I think I don't know about their 5.5 over under. I think they might be below that.
I want to give some props to Matt Rule real quick. I thought Baylor was done and buried. Like we wouldn't hear from them for 20 years, and here they come. It helps when they have a little freshman quarterback from Earl, Arkansas, a town so small that 2 people who were born in Central Arkansas couldn't tell you where Earl is, but he made it to Baylor and helped them find their way. Drew, you don't like him at 5.5? You like the under on there?
Yeah, I'm probably taking the under solely because I believe that they might be throwing games, just to get better, just to get a better draft pick. I would if I was in their position, but that's just me.
Their biggest acquisition this year was Joe Brady, to me.
Yeah. I think their offense is going to be talented, with Teddy B at the quarterback. He doesn't stretch the ball deep, but he makes a lot of great decisions with CMC, obviously. And then you have the receivers with Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, and DJ Moore, who DJ Moore, again, is another underrated receiver. But those 3 guys.
All or nothing.
Huh?
He showed out on All or Nothing near the end of the show. So
exactly. So I think they're due for offensively they're going to be good. Defensively, I think it's going to be a struggle. They picked Derek Brown with their 7th overall pick. Not a sexy pick, but I think he's someone that's going to lay a great foundation for the next couple of years.
He was high on a lot of draft boards. There were a lot of when I heard anonymous scouts talking, they said he's not that far behind Chase Young in terms of being like the perfect prototype of the position that he plays. Yeah, they love him, but. Let's not forget moment of silence for losing 2 of my favorite all-time players who are with the Panthers. Greg Olsen still in the league, but he's on his last legs. And then Luke Kuechly, man, one of the great linebackers of all time. So that'll hurt him for sure. Pookie, you have any thoughts on the Panthers?
Is Luke Kuechly a Hall of Famer?
Don't, Pookie, don't make me do it.
Pookie, who's more of a Hall of Famer, Patrick Willis or Luke Kuechly? Because me and Cindy looked at this. They have identical stats to the T. Number of Pro Bowls, number of All Pros, basically the same number of tackles. Kuechly beats him in interceptions, but Kuechly was more of a coverage linebacker, but literally identical.
Hold on, we're about to figure out if he's freaking playing here. Pookie, are you freaking serious? Okay, let me just give you the stats here, sir. All right, there are certain things you don't.
He's a fucking Hall of Famer, and Patrick Willis too.
Yeah, let me just.
They're both Hall of Famers.
There are certain things you can't joke about.
They're both.
There are certain
Hall of Famers.
Yes, I just want to tell you right now, there are certain things on this show we don't joke about. All right, and. One of them is police brutality, and the other one is Luke Kuechly's Hall of Fame status.
And small dicks.
Moratorium on that, okay? 2.
You didn't have that, Drew.
I'm sorry.
That's 3 things, man.
Oh,
Thanks for outing us, Drew.
I'll live with
Cut it.
Pookie, let me give you the hard stats here. That man played in the league for 9 years. Drew, check me on this to make sure I'm getting it right. No misinformation here on this show. 9 seasons, 7 first-team All-Pros. Is that right?
Hold on, you gotta let me get there.
Pretty sure it's 7 first-team All-Pros. NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. No telling, he's probably got a few Defensive Players of the Years. But it is funny. Drew mentioned Patrick Willis. Like, whose career would you rather have? So we went on Pro Football Reference to look up the numbers, and they are, like, almost identical, almost in terms of tackles, too. Like, it's crazy. The only difference is because, Kuechly played at a time when the Panthers were making the playoffs and they were pretty good. Willis played when the 49ers sucked, so he wasn't playing in as many games, but their stats are so similar.
Yeah,
They
Luke
both
Kuechly,
7-time all – what's
Luke
that,
Kuechly, seven Pro Bowls, five-time first-team All-Pro, Rookie of the Year or Defensive Rookie of the Year. That's Luke Kuechly. Sorry, he had a total of 1,092 tackles, with 690 of them being solo. What else? He had 1 touchdown. He had 9 fumble recovers, 7 forced fumbles. He had 18 picks, and he played in 118 games.
Just don't come at me. Even if you're joking, do not come at me, because I used to not like the Panthers. I mean, Newton's a great quarterback, but I still can't stand him from when he was at Auburn. Gave me one of the most painful losses I can remember, when they got into a shootout with Arkansas at Jordan Hare. And from that moment on, dude, it was over. It was
All right,
over.
you ready for this, Pookie? This is Patrick Willis' stats. 112 games, right? He had 8 interceptions. He had 16 forced fumbles, 5 fumbles recovered, 950 tackles, 733 solo. And then his awards, he had 7 Pro Bowls and 5 first-team All-Pros.
True.
Identical.
Yeah. It's,
Take both.
I mean, Luke Kuechly for sure. What?
Next together.
Didn't AB was in the league for 9 years too, wasn't he? I guess if you count this year.
He was a rookie in 2010, so yeah.
Okay, okay. He might be a year older than Kuechly then. I'm not sure, but
Kuechly didn't join the league until like 2012 or 2013.
He was the same draft as Suck for Luck.
Okay. Just, dude, I mean, only 9 years, but 5 first-team All-Pros. He spent more than half his career as a first-team All-Pro. Like, undisputedly, to me, I don't get to see the Seahawks play a lot. I know what people say about Bobby Wagner, but Luke Kuechly for me is the best running linebacker that I've seen, like, watching over time. Like, some of Ray Lewis's best years were before I really got into the game. So I think Luke Kuechly for me gets the nod, just for me personally. So hard to celebrate. But how much time do we spend on the freaking Carolina Panthers? That's like when Drew and I spent a lot of time last week on the Lions, and then we spent time talking about the other worst teams in the division.
It's time to move on to the Falcons.
Let's go. Hey, and before we do this, let it be known, Pookie had a love affair with the Atlanta Falcons the year they made the Super Bowl, more specifically with Vic Beasley Jr. When he had, 16 and a half sacks, Pookie?
Yeah, it was something like that, 15 and a half or 16 and a half.
He knew his stats back then.
And Vic Beasley, I wish he still played for the Falcons.
Tell us about the Falcons, Pookie.
Okay, so even though the Falcons were kind of a bottom feeder last year, let me read you a statistic. They were second in passing yards and 30th in rushing, 4th in total yards. So even though they had one of the 3 worst rushing offenses in the NFL, they were still 4th in the total yards department. So this team was pretty much ruled by its offensive superiority. Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, and Matt. Now they added Todd Gurley, so I'm curious to see if he can still produce. He was on my top 5 running backs list. I'm still going to stick with him, but who knows what his arthritis is going to say? Though it might say, "Oh hell no," but the Falcons had one of the top offenses, so it's really their suspect defense, and they have a very weak back end of the defense. They just lost Desmond Trufant, and I'm just curious to see, does Dante Fowler make them better as a pass rusher? They still have a couple weapons on defense, but not nearly as many as you'd like to see for a team trying to get into playoff contention.
I think when you talk about the Falcons last year, though, defensively, they were terrible. They lost what's his? I don't know how to say his first name, but the Neal guy at safety. I don't know how to say his first name.
I love Keanu Neal.
Yeah, Keanu Neal. He's a great defensive player. He was hurt like literally week 1, week 2 of the NFL season last year. Gone. Deion Jones didn't play most of the year last year as well. He was hurt. He's one of the best inside linebackers in the NFL right now. So they lost a bunch of weapons last year on defense. They're not great, like you said. They don't have a lot of great talent overall, but they do have some weapons on defense that are good.
I think they had in the last half of the season they had the best third down percentage on defense,
and they blew out the Saints.
They did, yeah.
They blew out the Saints in the second half of last
year. I think they might have won their first 2 games, and then they went on a terrible slide. But in the second half of the season, they really kicked it up. And honestly, I'm thankful because I really like Dan Quinn, and I hate to see a guy like that get fired. So I was glad they did. In the draft, I love what they did. For one player, and it's not this one, but in the first round, they went and got A.J. Terrell, the cornerback out of Clemson, and he got burned playing LSU in the national title game. But, I mean, that's not a huge condemnation there because who wouldn't get burned playing against those receivers? I mean, you play them in zone, they'll kill you. You play man on them, Joe Burrow is going to put that thing right there. It's almost impossible to cover all those guys. But he's a very good corner by all accounts. But any team who drafts a punter is going to be great, and that's the Falcons. Sterling Hoffrichter in the 7th round out of Syracuse, huge. All right, goes well in the future. So I'll just say that for the Falcons.
And on to the Buccaneers.
Dude, how are we going to leave them out?
The Buccaneers, the obvious thing everybody wants to talk about is Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, Mike Evans, C.J. Godwin. But I'm going to look at their suspect defense. The Bucs allowed 9 games of 400-plus yards of offense last season. That was against the Giants, the Rams, the Panthers, the Seahawks, the Cardinals, the Falcons, the Colts, the Lions, and the Texans. Some of those teams you shouldn't be giving up over 400 yards. And they had 2 or 3 games of over 500. So it's just like, yeah, the Buccaneers have some studs on offense, but are they going to be able to win shootouts unless Shaq Barrett and the defense can get it together? Because, you can't ignore JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul, and Shaquille Barrett on defense, but you definitely don't know if Tom Brady's still in the mode of being able to win shootouts. I mean, last year the Patriots defense carried them, and he wasn't as prolific as he usually is. So I don't know if that's a sign of the times to come or if he's going to have a rejuvenation of his career in Tampa Bay.
Well, he had no one to throw to. And the offensive line was hardly healthy at all, so I can't blame Tom as much.
I'll be honest with you, though, for the defense, as I'm looking at their starters here, I don't know. I think their defense is actually kind of not stacked, but they have better than they have. White. Yeah, they have Ndamukong Suh. They brought him back. Vita Vea, who's a big-ass freaking D-lineman. Shaq Barrett and JPP on the outside. Devin White, Levante David. They have Carlton Davis and Jamal Dean, who are one of them's a rookie, I believe. I think they just drafted him, or they drafted him a year ago. They also have Sean Murphy Bunting, who's another cornerback that they drafted last year. Had a good year. They drafted your guy Antoine Winfield Jr. I think they're gonna do decent enough that I believe that it's gonna allow Tom Brady to have a similar way of how he won last year with New England. They're not going to be as dominant as New England. Tom Brady's going to have a little bit more pressure, but he's got better weapons, and I believe he wants to prove to people that he can still do it.
It sounded like when they drafted Tristan Wirfs, that was the obvious way to go, is to build up that offensive line, because that offensive line is statistically, I think, one of the worst in recent memory in terms of how they graded out throughout the year. Like, Bucs fans would always call into these radio shows I listened to and like, dude, that offensive line sucks. Like, there was no doubt where they were going to the draft. you trade up and get Tristan Wirfs. And I'm not sure like how true this is, but apparently he came out and said he only wants to play right tackle, which the Bucs are kind of like, whoa, hold up, because they really wanted him to play left tackle. And they actually have a decent right tackle, I believe. So I'm not sure about that, but
I mean, when you talk about right tackles in the NFC South, you got to talk about the Saints, man, with Ryan Ramczyk. You know what I'm saying? New Orleans Saints.
What the fuck is a Ryan?
He's the dude. He graded out as like one of the best. I think he graded out as the best lineman over the past 5 years or so. He's been great.
He's not been in the league for 5 years, my guy.
Well,
I think he's been in the league for like 3 years.
My bad for being hyperbolic and not doing my research as well, but I can tell you he's valued very highly.
He's from Wisconsin, so he's great.
Love our Wisconsin lineman.
But again, you have to give it to the Saints because everyone coming into the draft, especially when their pick was up, thinking they were going to go defense, like Patrick Queen was on the board, I believe. They had a few other really good defensive guys. They say, no, we're going to draft an O-lineman, give Brees more time in the pocket to continue to do the things that he does with weapons like Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas. They added Emmanuel Sanders. Jared Cook's an older tight end, but he still can get it done. And having Sean Payton's system, they're always going to be tough to beat, especially in the Superdome. That's a tough place to go in and win. And so I think the Saints are going to probably repeat as division champions.
And the Saints, fun fact about them, their defense had 51 sacks last year. No small amount. So they can get after the quarterback with Cameron Jordan too.
You got DeMario Davis and Kiko Alonso backing them up. Marshawn Lattimore in the secondary.
Hey, one big thing that the Saints added this offseason, Malcolm Jenkins from the Eagles. They brought him back. He started his career in New Orleans. They brought him back. Great signing for them. Adds a very big veteran presence for them, as well as someone who's a big playmaker. And he's been like that for the Eagles. He's been a backbone for the Eagles for many years.
Also, uniform shout out. Their color rush, the all whites, drew some of the best in football.
Yeah, I think if you give the Saints an opportunity in the playoffs to beat the Vikings a couple years, game over. You know what I'm saying? Like I think they're Super Bowl contenders. I just think they need to get over the hump of the wild card / divisional game.
They should have done it this year. It was right there. They had them in the Superdome. You go and get some payback. You're the better team, allegedly. And Dalvin Cook runs all over you. That bad man makes some throws against you late.
Let's just hope they don't play the Vikings in the playoffs.
That
will be good.
They're my second. Right now, they're my second favorite in the NFC.
Agree.
So, right there. Cowboys are right there.
I think the Bucs Saints definitely, though, will be one of the two of the teams that we talk about at the end of the year as, teams that have a real shot to make a deep playoff run, potential Super Bowl contenders out of the NFC. I think the ones I give it to the Bucs is I think Brady with Gronk. I think Brady alone there allows them to be Super Bowl contenders, but with Gronk now, two guys who have very, very experience. They have a lot of experience in the Super Bowl. Obviously, I think that allows them to have that veteran leadership. And with Bruce Arians as their head coach, love him. He's a great guy, great offensive mind. I think they're going to do great things down in Tampa.
I will say it's a good thing that Gronk has a girlfriend. Being down, on the beaches of Florida, he's bound to get in some trouble there. Brady keeps walking into the wrong houses. That man's going to end up with an ankle bracelet on his foot. It's going to weigh him down during games. He's only allowed to go to work in his house. He can't go anywhere else. He's an old-ass man. Man, y'all are beefing up the Bucs, man, and this is not coming from hate. I don't have hate because they stole two of our best players, two of our all-timers. I'm just saying, man, if you – I don't mention the Bucs and the Saints in the same sentence. That was combative, Drew. I'm sorry.
No, I think it's a great discussion. On paper, the Bucs look great. We'll see. I think one thing that has been kind of we haven't really talked about a lot on this division's little thing is how much impact this whole Corona is going to have on teams that bring in new quarterbacks or new players like the rookies. Like rookies are gonna have a tough year this year. Learning everything. I guess it's great to have the playbook and be able to look at it, but it's also one thing to be able to do it and actually go in and run a 11-on-0 or 11-on-11 against a scout team or something like that and actually run the plays. It's a whole different thing. So
you know about that as a freshman going into fall camp. And I mean, I know you get to see the playbook a little bit when you're on your visit and stuff. Like they tell you about the place, but you have to learn all that stuff pretty much.
Yeah, no, I got very fortunate. I was actually given the playbook the summer before, like probably around this time, early June.
Dude,
I
you're
was,
gonna get someone fired, bro. You were chill
hey,
out.
it was Neil, bro. It was Neil. Who cares? But I was given the playbook and I was able to learn it, but it was completely different than going out there and actually doing it. That was the whole thing. So I think a lot of people are gonna miss that.